Turaki Buapa, I think that is, who was alongside him, and he has now remounted to continue on in the race, but clearly out of contention when you're in a pack race like that one. And that group has now become a 6-rider group instead of the 8 or so who were all involved.
Yeah, it is starting to split up a little bit, and the reason for that is you've got to try and make those attacks, and you can see there for both of those riders on the run down into 10. For Buapa, he was at least able to get himself remounted, get back out there, but for Tom Timon, he's obviously out of this race. It looks like the stewards are going to investigate that incident as well. It did look like the number 16 of Top Timon was at fault for that, but also a bit of a racing incident there. You're going to try and make moves into turn 10.
Yes, it does look as though that's the passing place of choice for these Asia Talent Cup riders, and Wacharan took time on, the 18-year-old from Thailand, left Qatar with a couple of points to his name, looked set for his best result here today, fighting in that 8-rider group, and unfortunately it's all come to nothing with an incident there also involving Buapa. Back to the front of the field, Furusato still leads it. It's Mie in second position, Daniel Sharil fighting his way through, I think now up into third position, coming through on Denish. On the inside of him there you can see the number 13, that's Denish on the outside, Sharil the number 21 making his way through, and Carter Thompson sticking with them, as is Hongo. So now this is 4 riders in contention for a podium position. We've been in this situation before where the top 2 have been able to break away in the Asia Talent Cup. It's 0.6 of a second now, the gap to bridge for Daniel Sharil. A new personal best for Sharil last time around. He's just come across the line. That's Hongo who's gone down, coming off the final turn. So Hongo, who was one of the riders in the 4 riders, the quartet chasing third position, he's gone down spectacularly there, coming off the final turn.
Yeah, looks like a bit of gravel pushed onto the track as well in the exit there, the last corner, but that's a shame for Hongo. But we've seen that obviously in that second part of the group the riders have to push on because they're seeing it start to split out, and yeah, he just runs out onto the green paint, and there is that bit of a kick off the curb there for him. You can see there the
level of the curb certainly different to the level of the track and the asphalt surface around the curb. I was saying earlier on, Steve, when we were watching free practice in Superbikes, we saw Jonathan Ray at one point come down off a curb and get all unsettled by it. These curbs do seem to be particularly high here in Indonesia. This is a new venue, and we're talking about smoothing out the circuit, but it's not smooth offline, that's for sure. That'll stop them from abusing the green paint, that's it.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to be exceeding track limits if that's the penalty, and Hongo just caught out by that. But those are riders in that second part of the lead group. They do need to push on, otherwise they're not going to be able to catch up to the 2 race leaders. It does look like at this stage, so Furusato and Mia have that enough of an edge. In third position, Daniel Sharil, he's trying to catch that, but he's got about a second to make up.
He did make up 0.4 of a second last time around on Furusato, the race leader. That was on lap number 9 with a new personal best from Daniel Sharil, the number 21. You can just see coming into the background of that shot there, he's leaving the 2 riders directly behind him further adrift. Denish and Thompson don't look to be able to live with him. He's actually managed to make a gap of half a second on this lap around to the riders behind him, and another new personal best lap from Daniel Sharil, and having dropped back to 6th position at one stage after a minor error that cost him 2 seconds to the leader. He's now only 0.6 of a second behind Furusato out in front. Lap 11 of 16. There is still time for Sharil really to make this a 3-rider fight for those podium places.
And it's worth really important for Furusato to get his head down as well, because we've seen they stretch out a little bit of a lead over the number 5 of Mii as well at around about 0.3 of a second. So he is trying to open up a bit of a gap, but he'll also know that Daniel Sharil is that rider on the charge, and Sharil's done a really good job to set his fastest lap close again within a couple of tenths of a second of second position.
Yes, and Mia doing a good job really to stick with the leader Furusato, as we say, and Sharil an exceptional job to close back in on him. Here is Fadila Aditama, who we were talking about earlier on, the man who'll be taking his place in the Rookies Cup for 2022. He's only had 1 race finish so far this season, and that was race 1 of the Doha Grand Prix. Came home in 8th position, and Aditama up in P6 here today. That, frankly, is the best he can hope for, unless there's further drama up in those top 5 positions, because we've got a trio at the front separated by just 0.6 of a second. Sharil is right with them now, and with striking distance of making a pass on Mie for second position here. Still Furusato leading. Then we've got a second to Carter Thompson in P4 and Denish in P5. And behind them, 9 seconds to Aditama and Fadila. A couple of Indonesian riders there scrapping it out for P6. Slight mistake there from Sharil. That's given a bit of breathing room to Mie in P2.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pick up the slipstream down the start-finish straight though and close that gap a little bit. But at the front of the field, we're seeing Furusato again in those low 1 minute 45s, but the fastest rider in the group is still Daniel Sharil, even with that mistake at the end of the lap.
So Sharil closing back down on Mie and Furusato. As through on the inside comes Denish, Hakan Denish coming through for fourth position on Carter Thompson. But unless something dramatic happens among those top three, which is entirely possible in the closing stages, then it does look as though they're only scrapping for P4. They're making entertainment of it, that's for sure. Thompson and Denish scrapping and swapping.
Yeah, and you can see Thompson there in number 6 machine just making sure he was able to hold on to that fourth position. We've seen him have good results so far this year, 3 top 5s in the opening 2 rounds of the year in Qatar, so he's been adapting well to an Asian Talent Cup bike, running inside the top 5 again in this race, wants to come out in that battle, on top of that battle with Denish.
Yes, and meanwhile, up at the head of the field, it is Daniel Sharil, who knows that this is crucial in the context of the championship for him. Needs to get as many points off Furusato as he possibly can. Furusato, of course, with that 41-point lead coming into this race. So to keep things as best as possible within his own hand, Sharil needs to be taking victories and needs to see Furusato finishing a little bit further down the order. We're only at the halfway mark of the 2021 Asia Talent Cup. 4 races still remaining, including this one, of course. But further back, it is as tight as anything from 2nd down to 6th in the series standings. Only 13 points between them. So anything that happens to the front runners in the championship, and that makes a major impression. We said that earlier on with Kanta Hamada in the standings, and he is going to lose out here to the other riders around him in terms of points. Back to the front then, and it's Furusato who's leading. He looks to have consolidated his advantage on this latest lap around. A new personal best lap, that's why. It's a 1:44.922, and he stretches 4 tenths out over Mie, which means that Sharil has got to go. He needs to leave Mie behind him, and he's got to stick with Furusato if he's to have hopes in the...
Nice clean move there by Sharil to take second spot in the run into turn 1, and now the key thing for him is to be able to make sure he's close enough to try and attack into turn 10. We saw that Mie was the rider that was able to attack into turn 10 earlier on. Sharil, for all the time he spent behind Furusato, we didn't really see him try and make a move on him.
Yes, the gap from 3rd to 4th last time around was extended by 1.5 seconds. So Carter Thompson and also Hakim Denish, there's no way that they're going to get back into actual podium contention from here. 1:46.5 and a 1:46.8 respectively, compared to that 44.9 from the race leader Furusato. Sharil and Mie have both responded on lap 13, and Furusato stands up, has a good look over his shoulder just to check how many people are in this group, and I can tell you that unless one of these 3 riders goes down, these are going to be your podium trio. The question is, in what order?
Yeah, for Furusato, that's another time we've seen him have that big look over his shoulder. He's not afraid of checking to see who's around him, and he's not trying to just keep his head down and focusing on his lap times. He wants to know what's happening around him. That shows he's probably got a little bit of pace in hand as well for these final 3.5 laps.
Yes, the top 5 in this race are all in the top 6 positions in the championship. Hamada, who crashed at turn 10 earlier on in this race, is the odd one out, and the top 3 in points terms, a tie at the moment between Gun Mie and Hakim Denish, settled by the best result, which was Gun Mie's 2nd place in the opening race of this campaign, which means that the top 3 in the championship standings are the top 3 on track at present, and they are in the order they are in the championship, which would mean that the gaps between them all would continue to extend. 3 laps to go, and Sharil losing ground again around the first turn of lap 14 with a bit of an error.
Yeah, Furusato's trying to turn the wick up now as well at this stage, and last time around he was able to lose a couple of tenths of a second with that look over his shoulder to see who was around him, but he's still got a good amount of pace in hand. We'll see if he's able to really try and stretch out his lead now in this lap. He looks like he's got his head down, wants to try and really be aggressive and open up a bit of a gap. It was only 2 tenths of a second when they came across the line. It's up to half a second now.
Yes, as you can see on the screen, the gap to the leader, 8 tenths of a second for Mie in 3rd position, and it could very well turn into a duel between Sharil and Mie here for 2nd place, because Furusato really kicking on. Sharil responding around that latest sector through the twistier stuff and in towards turn 10. They're making their way now, the leaders, through turns 11 and 12. It switches on to the final sector as we switch back to the battles further down the order. Well, they've switched at just the right time. Deo making a lunge down the inside. I think that might have been of Aditama, and both of them have gone down and into the gravel trap. And Deo looks, Aditama looks none too pleased with Deo there after that ambitious move down the inside. Another incident at turn 10.
Yeah, and for Aditama, that was out of 6th position and on course for a really good performance here in his home round. See Carter Thompson then making the move through the fast right-handers at the end of the lap.
And this will be for Hakim Danish loses a place. Carter Thompson then through back into P4. These two have been swapping and jading. I suspect that if we'd been watching just that battle, we would have seen another 100 of those overtaking manoeuvres. We're now on to the penultimate lap of the race for the leaders. For Osato, 0.4 of a second up ahead of Sharil, who's got in front of Mie and made a 0.3 of a second advantage.
Yeah, you can see there Aditama there on the number 3 going down, and again, like you said, Alex, another move into turn 10. It's easy to be a little bit ambitious on the run into there, and just to have an instant like that at the front of the field, though. Furasada's doing a good job now just to keep that lead at around about 0.3 of a second. Sharil's digging in. Last time around in the final sector, he did close back to within a couple of tenths of a second, but it's really difficult to try and close that gap then in Furasada.
And haven't we seen that already in 2021 in the Asia Talent Cup? Furasato happy to lead at the front of the field, happy to try and break his rivals for pure pace, not too worried about the slipstream advantage that's given to the riders behind him, because he knows he's got an inherent pace advantage. He wasn't able to show it in qualifying here a week ago, but thanks to the free practice sessions as well earlier on today, he's clearly got to grips with this 4.3 kilometre Mandalika International Circuit, our first ever race here around this venue, and it's in the Asia Talent Cup. But it looks like the one thing that hasn't changed is our race leader. Furasato out in front, looking set to extend his series lead.
Yeah, Sharil's doing a good job in this lap, though, holding with him, and he's a 1/10 of a second faster so far, but the clock is winding down all the way. It's really important now for Sharil to get close enough to try and attack into turn 1.
Looking as though it's going to be the same top 2 for 3 races in a row. We had this finishing order between Furasato and Daniel Sharil in both of the races at the Doha Grand Prix. Furasato has had only 1 finishing position in 2021, and they've all been worth 25 championship points. Sharil then 2/10 further down, and we've got a fall, and is that Danish? Yes, it is. It's Danish who's gone down in his fight with Carter Thompson. Last time over the line, he was in front, I think, of Thompson in the battle for 4th place. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, keep an eye in the background, and you're going to see for Danish, just tries to be a little bit aggressive through that last corner, trying to make sure he's able to close up on Carter Thompson to set up a move on the final lap, and just asks a bit too much of his Honda machinery.
Yes, now look at the leaders, a 1/10 of a second between them on this final lap. Sharil has managed to find something a little bit special, a little bit extra. He was stuck down in 6th position at one stage. He's fought his way through onto the tail of Furasato. Furasato still unbeaten in 2021. Daniel Sharil might be about to have a go at stopping that from being the scenario. They make their way now in towards turn 10. This has been an action hotspot all race long. It's been an incident hotspot all race long as well. Furasato there defending to the inside. It's going to be single file through here. Turns 11 and 12 in towards the final sector. Sharil chooses now down the inside into 12. Catches Furasato by surprise. Opportunity for Furasato on the number 15 here to make a recovery in similar fashion as they come off 13 and 14. What about a lunge into turn 16, the slowest corner on the circuit? Daniel Sharil looking for his first race victory since his return to the Asia Talent Cup. He was last a winner in Thailand 2018. He's fighting for the lead here against Furasato, the championship leader, who goes soaring around the outside bravely. 2 turns to go, 16 and now 17. They come through the left-hander, and it's Furasato who once again leads. Taiyo Furasato of Japan to make it 5 wins out of 5, and the inaugural race victory at the Mandalika International Circuit goes to Taiyo Furasato. The first time this season that he's been off pole position, the first time he's ever been off pole position in the Asia Talent Cup, but he doesn't disappoint. He comes through to the front. He leads almost throughout. Daniel Sharil was disappointed with that, shaking his head in his hands practically as he made his way back in towards turn number 1. Sharil second best, but only by 0.2 of a second. That's 3 races in a row now where he's tried to give Furasato a real run for his money. Gunmie with his 3rd podium finish of this 2021 campaign. Second time that he's finished in P3. Carter Thompson, an isolated fourth position in the end after late drama for Hakim Denish. So it does look as though we're only going to have 14 finishers to this race. I think I cursed it earlier on when I said that there hadn't been that many retirements in the Asian Talent Cup in 2021. And that means that Fadilla on the Raycat Fadilla making his debut in the Asia Talent Cup is a strong performer, the Indonesian rider with P5 ahead of Herjan Ferdaus, who takes P6, and Sharil, Pratama, Fujita and Buapa eventually remounting to come home for 10th place. So a bit of wacky races at times, but the one thing that was, as we might have anticipated before the lights went out, a fine victory that from Furusato, bowled around that final sector in particular.
Yeah, Furusato coming through from the second row of the grid, and he'll have to do the same again in tomorrow morning's race, but certainly for him, he was able to show once again the talent that he has on offer. That last corner move that he made through the long right-handers, the ever-decreasing radius right-handers, it really was impressive. That took your breath away, really, and Daniel Sharil did nothing wrong during the course of that race. He holds the right line on the run into those right-handers. You saw him whenever he came across the line, he had to look up to the skies and just think, what do I have to do to win a race?
And aggressive when he needed to be as well through turn 12. I wasn't expecting really to see a move there, but Sharil had got close enough to try and strike and capitalised on the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think for Sharil, put everything he could onto this and left it all on the track, and we saw that he was able to set fast lap times to bridge himself back up to the two race leaders, but ultimately in that final lap, Furusato just had that little bit in hand, and a really daring move by Furusato, but that's why he's the rider that's already guaranteed to be on the World Championship grid next year.
This is one of the men of the moment as far as the Indonesian spectators here this weekend will be concerned. Raycat Fadilla, the number 24, on his Asia Talent Cup debut, and coming home for fifth position. A couple of Indonesian riders scoring decent points here today, and every reason then for the spectators to be satisfied, and hopefully their riders will come back for more here over the course of this weekend. We've still got 3 races to go in the Asia Talent Cup for 2021, and indeed for this Indonesian round. We've got effectively 2 rounds this weekend, round 3 and round 4 of the Asia Talent Cup, with 4 races, as I say, in total. Looks as though Daniel Sharil is paddling his way back towards the podium area. We will have celebrations with our top trio. But Furusato, as far as he's concerned, another race victory. It's only 5 points gained, damage limitation for Daniel Sharil. But if he is a race winner here tomorrow, that will be enough to seal the Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, and certainly you wouldn't bet against it for Furusato with the form that he's been in, and just the manner in which he was able to take that race victory, and could well be the latest Asia Talent Cup champion as early as the opening race of tomorrow. And certainly from that point on, it's going to be a very different weekend as well, because we also have a qualifying session tomorrow morning, and that'll set the grid then for races 3 and 4 this weekend. Yes,
we're watching a future Grand Prix rider, and don't we know it, the way he carried himself in that race.
Yeah, he looked like he had it in hand all the way through, and that last lap move, to be that cool and calm after being stuffed down the inside through the fast corners in the middle of the lap, that really does show that he's able to keep a cool head, and that's what you want to see in the Asia Talent Cup from these riders. This is one of the big talent pools that's available to the Grand Prix paddock and to the Superbike World Championship as well, and certainly on their road to MotoGP, he's been able to show just how good he can be. Even if you think back to last year, he actually led both races in Qatar on the last lap, but got caught out. He hasn't been caught out this year.
Plenty of character being shown by Daniel Sharil as well today. The number 21 coming home for another second position. That's 3 in a row for him. The wait continues for a first victory since 2018. But as I say, plenty of character, and that's not surprising given his remarkable story, as I mentioned at the top of the programme.
Yeah, really has been impressive to see the recovery that he's made from those injuries in Sepang a few years ago, and we saw in this race again that he's got the heart to try and keep himself in it and dig deep to try and close the gap to those race leaders. He rode a really good race, just ultimately one other rider rode a slightly better race.
Yes, his right leg completely shattered in that incident, to the extent that initially the prognosis was that it may well be an amputation. I understand stem cell surgery and so on was used to get Daniel Sharil rehabilitated. The fact that he's back on a bike at all is pretty incredible. 3 podiums in a row though, and that is his 8th podium in the Asia Talent Cup by my reckoning, and that really does take some doing. He really has done a brilliant job, and so far this weekend been among the stars of the show. The top 3 in that race are also the top 3 in your Asia Talent Cup series as a whole. As far as points are concerned, Furusato now leads it by 46 over Mie, who takes a clear third now. He is 52 back from Furusato.